Welcome back to the final video of the Elden Ring wall mural. There are many ways to go about doing things. You might have heard the phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Well, in this video, this is how I'm going to show you my way of showing you how you could skin your own cat this way. There's a lot of different methods out there. This one, I believe, is almost the most time consuming, but you do probably get the best results if you're not used to doing everything free-handed, or you can't draw or anything like that, but you're good at putting something down as far as a stencil goes and mapping off of that. This is probably the most detailed way you can get something very, very detailed. So what I got going on here is I've got the guy all cut out, and I went through and I did relief cuts in all his armor, any type of detail that I need, I made relief cuts for. Now, I didn't go through and just fully cut it out. I stopped near the edges, that way the image would stay together. I did this because when I'm looking at this, when I'm going through here, and I'm going to be mapping this in here with like a really over-reduced white, this is just to get my image down. And the reason I did this is because when I was doing the clouds and everything, I had this all chalked in with the projector, and with all the paint and everything, I kind of got carried away and I kind of cut off the very top portion of the character. So I needed to go back in there and get something that was going to tell me where exactly everything was again. So this is my way of showing you guys how you can go about doing this. Like I said, this is probably the best way you can get the most detail out of everything. Now, that goes for saying you have to take the time and map everything out from the drawing onto the paper. If you don't do that and you just do the silhouette, that's all you're going to end up with. So the more time you take and the more detail you put into your drawing, and the more time you take on cutting it out, the better overall you're going to be at the very end. Because you can you also can use this not only as like a silhouette and getting your your shapes and everything down and where everything is. But you can also go back and at the very end, when you're doing like your shadows and your highlights and stuff, you can actually cut these shapes all the way out and save them and go back in. Like say if this body armor piece has a really hard edged line from the shadow dropping down on it, you can actually use that on your image on whatever you're painting on and use that as pretty much like a shield and make that shadow to where it's actually hard edged. So there's multiple ways that you can go about doing this and using something like this. And this is just one of the ways that I kind of started out doing this, because to get good, you got to be able to do things over and over and over again. And a lot of the airbrush stuff that I do is really time consuming. So the best way you can cut your time down, but still get to the point and get it across as fast as you can, the more money you're going to make in the end. All right. So I've got the positive piece, and then I've got and saved. You want to always save your negative piece. So just in case I need to go back through here, and I'm going to be doing this a lot back and forth, because I'm going to be using both pieces here. And how I'm going to be using both pieces, just like kind of like this sword here, I need this lined up, that way I can actually put the sword in where it needs to go, and little details like that. So I'll be using both of these to get this thing mapped out, and then the rest of it will be pretty much free-handed. But I just want to show you guys this real quick of how you can go about doing this. Now I put relief cuts in all this for one reason only, and that is to tell me where everything is. So let's say like this elbow pad right here. So if the sun is coming down here or coming straight, whatever I've got a reference image I'm going to be looking at with this. So whatever that sunlight and the shadows are hitting, let's say this has got really a dark shadow from where his elbow armor's sitting, I can really just, you know, hold that down, and then my airbrush pressure will actually go through it, and it'll kind of flap with the air pressure, and that paint will go in there where it needs to go, and then I can lift it up and it'll tell me where everything's at, and it'll map it in for me. And a lot of times you don't have to do that. If you cut it really good and clean, it'll actually just creep through these cracks, which is, it does the same thing. But as far as being able to tell me where everything's at, that's a really good way to go about doing it. And that's kind of why I go through here. You might see a lot of artists do that. The more, they always tell you, the more detail you put into something, the better and detailed your image is going to be, which is true. So take your time doing this. Make sure you cut everything. Make sure you have it all together. That's the biggest piece. That's the biggest issue. I see a lot of people, they just start cutting and they start breaking pieces away and you don't know where it goes. So make sure you don't fully cut it out. Just make sure you put some a nice slice in there to get everything kind of separated, but yet stay away from the edges, and just do like this, like this belt right here. I just did the center section here, and then the sides are still connected. So I can go through there and I can pop this open and add a little bit of paint with the air pressure, and it'll kind of use it as a backing. And I just hold this down and it'll hit that and use it as like a shield. So pretty easy stuff. It just takes a lot of time. But like I said, this is probably the best way to go about doing something like this. If you lose an image, or if you need something redrawn, or if you need to use it multiple times over and over and over again, a paper stencil is the cheapest and best route to go. And all I did on this was pretty much just 2 pieces of paper together for the size. I measured everything I already had on here out, and then I stuck it on my computer screen, and I just pretty much transferred it over exactly how the image was. And then I'll use my reference image off my phone to finish this up. So everything's gonna be mapped out in white, and then we'll go back through and we'll just start laying everything out once I get everything mapped out. So hopefully this guys helped you. I know it helped me a lot, and it'll speed things up for you a lot. So I want to take the time and stop here while I had everything kind of blasted in there a little bit to show you guys what this actually takes to do this, and show you kind of how I went about doing it in that time lapse. So you're dealing with paper, right? That's if you're cutting on this on paper, you're dealing with paper. So paper is extremely flat. So you're going to have to go through here and kind of bend your areas up that you need bend up to shoot through this. The air pressure does help a little bit, but if you want to actually see your registration marks, you're going to have to bend it up a little bit and blow a little bit of color in there so you can see everything. So pretty much it looks like just a paper mache right now. It's all folded and whatnot, but I do have everything underneath. So I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. I got some paint up there I need to take off. So now you can see my guy here. So it's very lightly done. Like I said, it's really over reduced white, but it is a silhouette ghosted shell in there right now. And now I can pretty much go back through here and try to wipe away all the rest of the chalk. What I usually do is get some paper towel and just kind of wipe away what I have in here as far as your lines go, because you do not need those anymore. Alright. Looks a lot better now. And now you can kind of see where you're going with it. Like I said, it's really over reduced white, and I just went in there and kind of misted it. And I went over and kind of just misted like the sword a little bit down here, around his neck, around his head, around the cape there that's torn up, and a little bit of top of the sword. And when like I go back and do the sword, I can go back to use my positive mask, put it on here, and I can chisel that sword out. So my next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to set this up here. I'm just going to test fit this to make sure it's all within spec of what I need it to be. Because sometimes when you're doing this, you will get ahead of yourself, and some of the things, if you bend your paper a certain way and then you go put your positive mask back down, it will not line up because you overstretched the paper or you bent it or it blew away from you. And mine looks to be pretty perfect. So now what I can do is I can start picking some of these areas out. And I'm going to pretty much do all this free-handed. I'm not going to try to use any type of more stencils or masking or anything like that. But see, like I said here, I can go through here and I can actually cut the hand out here and start chiseling and tape it and start chiseling this sword out and make it, you know, really come out and just start chiseling everything in white. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go through here and start chiseling all this stuff out, all in over reduced white, and try to get this, all the details and everything, all the shadowing down. And then there's not many colors in this. There's some yellows from bouncing off the light of the flames in the background of the sun. But it's pretty much all black and grays, and a little bit of yellow, orangish yellow in there. So I'm just going to chisel everything out in white, and then we'll go back and forth, and then the very last we'll just do some highlights with that yellow. A little bit of an accident right there. But being just the outline, we're not going to really worry about that. We'll just leave it as a registration mark. But I think we're pretty much there with everything mapped in. I'm going to take this off. And this will tell us everything we need to know. Alright, so you can see now what it looks like all mapped in. Not really any detail, just kind of going in and laying it out, all the groundwork. So from this point, I can use the same exact white, and since I over reduced it, it's really light. So I can go back in and really hit some of these highlights even more and just start building up those layers and punching some of these details out. Then I can switch back to the darker, greener blacks and just start shadowing everything, and that's when everything's going to start popping out. So I'm going to go over this with white and keep building that up, and then we're going to switch to different colors. I decided to just go ahead and start filling in everything with the white after I went back in and kind of put a little bit more white in the soldier here, because I'm going to be using pretty much the same colors with him that I am around this. So I thought I just might as well just knock out the sketching part of everything around here. Now, as you see, I really didn't fill in everything. The way this mural is shaped, it's kind of got like a V going down to her. So I really wanted everything to kind of lead down to her on both sides. So I didn't go through and fill in every little bit of detail. And a lot of this is made up from what I wanted to do. It's not directly off the game poster. Some of it is, like where the sword is going in. It's got a pile of bricks right there, or land that's cracked up, making it look like bricks. You got the dead soldier over here. We got the kind of like the weeds and the moss over here with some rocks in the background. Rock in the background here. Something over here. Can't really make it out in the poster, but there's some stuff out in the distance over here, and I kind of faded that stuff in there. But the rest of this, I made it just look like breaking rocks going down to the ground. So he's like on this platform. If you look at the poster, if you go way off over here, there's like another body over here that's supposed to be in the foreground pretty much, and some other things over here. I just decided to knock all that stuff out, kind of do a little bit what I wanted this thing to look like and kind of shape it the way I want to look like, because if I would have done the body, I would have had to cut them off, and I didn't really want to do that. So I just kind of made some stuff up. This is just a sketch part, but I want to show you guys what it's looking like. The body's really cool. Now, some of the stuff is made up to the point of, like, I don't know exactly what route I'm going with it. And like such right here, like I was wanting to make a big rock right here and make it look like it's cracking or whatever, and I didn't really like the way it was looking, so I'm not really sure what I want to do around here. But the next step in this process is to go back in with a black, or a really dark bluish green color to make it look like black, and start knocking out some of these chisels on this on the shadowing everywhere, and that will really make this come forward. And then I can go back in with color and hit the areas that need color, and then I can go back in with a dark black, probably the blackest black, and go through and punch out some of these really dark shadowed areas. So those are the steps that we're going towards next, but I just want to show you guys what it's looking like. It's looking really cool. I said just a lot of the detail that's in that poster, if you look at it, or the video game art on the front cover of that the game, there's a lot of things that I just I took away from it. I didn't really want to copy it to 100% because obviously this is my game room, so I want to make it the way I want it to look, but yet still, when people look at this, they know exactly what this is. Just a bunch of bricks, a bunch of, like, the ground was cracking everywhere. It's a bunch of tile and stones and everything. So I just kind of made it and minimalized it, and just made it to what I want it to look like. So the next step is to get some of these shadowed areas, and to really start shadowing everything. Maybe not like a really dark black, but something to just kind of bring this picture forward, because once you do that, it's going to knock a bunch of these dark spots back, and then it's going to really punch forward that white that we have down, and it really make this thing stand out, and then we'll go to color from there. So just really trying to finalizing what I've done here is what the next step is. I've got paint mixed up already. What I've been doing is going through here and punching out all the darkest spots. I did not make up straight black. It's got some of this, it's called moss green. So I put a little bit of this in there with the black, that way it's not just straight black. Because the idea is you don't want to go straight black because usually it's too dark at first. Your darkest darks want to be to the very end. That's when you want to use like straight black, and you don't really always want to use straight black. You want to put something in there that kind of dilute it down, especially against white. You'll notice if you're doing like a black and gray portrait, if you just go and do all your detail in white and you go over it with straight black, it will kind of make that white a brown with your overspray. So what a lot of people do is they'll put like a blue in it or something like that, just to kind of tone that dark black down. So I always put a little bit of something in there, but since we're working off of like a green and a bluish background, I figured I'd do green instead of blue. So I've been just going back and forth here. I've been trying to punch these rocks out a little bit. You can kind of tell where I've been and where I haven't been. So there's a lot of detail in this, and I kind of dusted a lot of this with overspray, because I want to go in there and I want to punch some more of this stuff out. There might be, like, inside of these little cracks right here, there might be 2 or 3 little rocks instead of just one big one. So with dusting that over with a little bit of white at the beginning, or at the end of it actually, you can go back in there with this and kind of detail it out that way. But everything I'm doing is just pretty much freehand. And when I go along here, I'm trying to stay true to my drawing, but there are times where I'll just add some things in there. And usually that just comes with experience and what you're doing. Sometimes you'll see things other people won't see, when you're going along and doing this. So it's just a little bit of, stylizing it a little bit. In my head, I know what I want these rocks to kind of look like. So I really don't have a reference photo or anything like that I'm going off of, because initially my sketch is pretty much done the way I want it. So there's really no, unless you really want to pull a picture of some rocks, to kind of get a little bit more detail with it. But in my head, I know as I go along, like some of these are punching out the way I want them, and it's just giving me that idea of what I want. So I'm just going with it. And I've got my cap off. My air cap was off. That way I can get really fine detail out of this. Like right there, I just added that little bit of rock right there. without actually adding it. I can punch it out more by doing a little bit more sharper lines. And that's just all comes in with repetition, control of your airbrush. And one of the biggest things is getting your mixture versus your air pressure set just right. Once you get your airbrush flowing and you got your right air pressure with the type of mixture you have in your airbrush, you can really go through here and really start laying down. So my camera just shut off. I don't know why it shut off, but I was saying once you get your mixture correct of what airbrush you're using or what you're doing with your airbrush versus the air pressure coming out of your compressor, once you get those two mixtures like spot on, you'll be able to get really good detail. I always say over reduce your paint a little bit more than what you think, and then you're able to turn your air pressure down a little bit lower. That way you're not blasting it, because usually when you're blasting it, unless you got really good control over your airbrush, that's where all the overspray happens. So lower your air pressure, reduce a little bit more than what you think, and then you can really pull off really good detail. You might not be able to see really well, but I'm getting really tight in here. I mean, it's so tight, you might not be able to pick it up. But I'm just going through here. Let me adjust this for you. So, I'm kind of working in this area right here. You can go through there and add like details in the rocks, and I mean, you can go crazy with this stuff if you really wanted to. That's just one thing about airbrushing, that you can, once you get everything set up perfectly the way you need it, you can really pull off some really cool stuff. Like I just made that look like it's cracking in 3 places. And I'm just kind of winging it, so I'm not really, no game plan, no nothing like that. I'm just going through here and adding things that I think I want to add in here as I go along of what I see. So I see right here, I can break this off right here to make it a little bit different than what I had it. So it looks like this one's on top of this one, and this one's on top of this one, and this is kind of at the bottom. And then this one's laying on top of this one. Trying to stay away from her head. And then this one right here, I still don't know what I'm going to do with it. And this may seem a little dark to you guys, but this is really light. It might come off as black because we got so much white on here, but this is kind of like I would call the middle step. You're just kind of refining your sketch with this. And then at the very end, the very last thing you want to do is go in there with black, like I told you earlier, and dilute it with blue and really knock out these dark areas. And then it's going to give you another layer of contrast. And some of these are going to jump off of this. And that's after you do your color, you do this step, you do your color, and then you can go. That looks kind of cool. So we just got this little bit to finish up here. go. I'm liking all that. There we go. So everything has been touched besides the guy and this down here, once I figure out what that is, but that's pretty much what I'm going to start doing. I'm just going to finish this guy up and then finish this up down here, and then we'll go into the color. I really don't know what's up with my GoPro, but it keeps shutting off, so like I said, you can really go back in with your black and really at the very end after you add your color in there. And then when you do your color, you might have to go back to this stage. Depends on how well you control your color or how well your mixtures are with your colors that you want. Sometimes I'll mix a color and it's not what I think it is until I put it down, and then I won't like it. So there are times where you're going to have to jump back and forth from this step to your colors, maybe back to your whites. You are going to want to do highlights, things like that towards the end. So there's a lot of jumping back and forth between this, your colors, and your whites. And then your blacks at the very, very end. That's when you're going to knock out all your really dark areas. Put a crack off in the distance here. Just a couple of things that I want to kind of touch. So I'm going to go back over here, kind of finish up what I was doing earlier. That one's like chipping off there. Now these are a little bit different because that's where his sword is, so they're not like these over here. These are like kind of like cracking and like the ground is breaking and things like that, so I want to treat these a little bit differently. They're a little bit more soft of an edge. I mean, you can go in there and Some of these can have a fine line to them, but for the most part, I want to make them really soft. And it don't take much to knock these out, like very little. And the reason why I'm doing that really soft is they're kind of further back than all this, right? So you want to make sure things are kind of farther away. You want to kind of fuzz them out a little bit so there's not many hard, sharp lines. Like I said, you can punch stuff out like this a little bit, pick and choose. But for the most part, they're way in the distance, so. This knee's on that one right there, so do a little bit of shadow work. Alright, so I keep stepping back to look at it to see what it looks like, and I'm really liking it, so I'm just going to start working my way around this even more. Let me tilt you guys up a little bit. I'm up here in the body part right now. And this body is really farther away than this, so there's not much detail. So you almost got to kind of fake like there's detail in it by putting a little bit of here and there. So a little bit of detail goes a long way. Don't want to get too carried away with it. But now I'm going to have to pull up my picture because I forget what's here. I think this is all blacked out, if I remember right. Let me pull up my picture. So yeah, most of this over here is blacked out. Pop some of this grass out. There's a lot of shadows down here from him laying on everything, so I like that. And then off in the distance, there's some more rocks. get these rocks in. Sometimes they're difficult. Alright, I like that, the way it's looking. And here I am back to just kind of looking at my reference and guessing a little bit. 'Cause there's really not much to go off of here. Everything's so far away, so kind of just make it what you think it is. And the way you do that is you just go by the shapes, what it looks like to you. And these rocks over here, kind of in the shadows. I'll shift you guys back over here. I'm working kind of in this area. Trying to get these rocks in. And then this is just a big boulder. I'm just going to fade that off in the distance. Just fade that off. grass. Pop those out a little bit better. And then we're going back into the stone part right down here. This one's got a crack in it. This is kind of where it becomes fun because you can just do whatever you think you want. you guys on video will not notice at all, but I have actually taken a couple weeks off from working on this. So this is pretty much a continuation on from where I left off, but I have went back in and added some things off camera, so I'm gonna go over with those. Just it's been pretty busy around the house here, so I actually took a time off from working and doing videos on anything because I had a bunch of house stuff to be done. We just had a baby shower, and I've done a few projects out in the shop, plus working all the time, full time. So I just ended up taking some time off from this. But now we're going to get caught back up on it. I'm going to go over with you what I've done off camera. It wasn't much. It's probably 20-30 minutes worth of stuff. So we're going to get jump back in this thing and get going on it again and finally finish everything up here because it is very, very close to being done, this middle ground. And then we can go in and kind of add anything we want, whatever we want to do after this. And but yeah, we just need to finish this middle ground up here. So what I went ahead and did was we left off with just having everything pretty much black and white sketched in there. And what I did, I went back in and I made this kind of like a tealish green, like a darker tealish green color. And I over reduced it and went back in there and I fogged a lot of stuff in. The cape, I went in and fogged in with that same color. You can see it mainly in the cape because the cape is like a dark bluish color. So I wanted that green to be in there. And then after I did all that and fogged everything down here that needed that bluish green to it to kind of help blend itself back in there and kind of kill back some of this white that we had in here. I went back in with a mixture of like a goldish brown yellow color because the guy's got a lot of brownish yellow in him with his armor and everything. So I went back in there and I just kind of roughly hit everything. It's a very, very light, it's almost like yellow in person, but does have some brown tint to it. And basically all I did there was I took yellow, obviously, and then red, made an orange, and then a couple drops of blue will turn it brown. And then depending on what type of brown you want it, you can either put more yellow in there or you can make it a lighter color and put some white in there to dye it back down. So that's what I did there to make this color. So it wasn't anything crazy special. And then I went in and I started doing like a little bit of highlights here and there because I want some of these hot spots to jump off at you in the end. So in the end, we might go back through and hit these again to make them really bright because I want just kind of like that glimmer, that shine to it on these rocks down here to make it look like it's reflecting off stuff. So what I'm going to need to do now is to go back in with a darker grayish blackish color and start popping some of these areas out. And also I need to go back in with the lighter gray and hit some things around his mask, his helmet here, and just a lot of the armor's got a lot of like a light gray color mixed in with this yellowish brown color. So that's what I need to do now. So we're going to get some paint mixed up and then we're just going to roll with it. I am no longer using my reference. Right now it's going off of just what I want it to look like. This is kind of like the fun part of it, is to make it what you want it to be. You necessarily don't have to copy anything 100%. I actually recommend you don't copy, especially a big trademark like this. I don't know, like if you're doing anything like Disney wise, if you go and copy something Disney related and Disney sees it, if you post it, they will come after you. I've had people, artists that I've known, that big corporations will come after if you copy their stuff one for one. So I kind of, this is my area where I go through and I start altering everything to where I want it to look like myself, get it away from the image. I know I've already done that with the landscape down here. It's not even close to being like the picture. Everything is pretty much made up from the ground up. But as far as a guy, I kind of want it to look a certain way for this whole area. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to probably make up a light gray first, and then at the very end, we'll go back through and darken that gray up. It'll just be easier that way. I guess I could make a darker gray and then put some white in it to light it up and do it vice versa, but I tend to always like to do the darkest areas last. So I'm gonna go and make some light gray up, and we're gonna start hitting these areas that are gonna be bouncing off of this. So it has been a very long journey doing this game room wall. I think roughly I have about 15 to 20 hours in it total, but we are finally done. For right now, I'm thinking about adding more around it and wrapping around the walls. Like if you've watched my previous videos, I mentioned that before. Still debating on what I want to do, but I want to kind of incorporate more games into this and wrap it around both sides of the walls. But for right now, this piece that we've been working on, this should be video number 4 of this game room wall of getting totally airbrushed. And we are finally, I believe, done. I've got the shadowing in there, the shading, the highlights, and a little bit of glow from the fire above. And I'm going to show you guys the final shots. just want to wrap this up and say thank you for everybody watching the video as well as the other videos. If you haven't, go back and watch the original part 1 all the way to this video, which I believe it's part 4 of this mural on the wall. Sorry it took so long. Just had a bunch of stuff happen and getting things situated for the house and the baby that's coming, and also playing the DLC from Elden Ring. If you haven't, go and play the game. It's amazing. If you're like a challenge, you're gonna like this game. It's really big. It's got a lot of different things you can do inside of it. You can build your own character. You can pretty much play the way you want it, but it is really, really challenging. It's pretty hard. It makes you learn the game itself, so it's really rewarding in that regard. So if you haven't, go and play Elden Ring. I'm already on the DLC, pretty much at the very last boss, and now I'm stuck trying to beat the last boss. So it's a really good game. I've played all the way through it. I've got over 200 hours in the game, so take it from me what you will, but airbrush this wall because of how good this game is, and I wanted to incorporate it into my game room. So like I said, thank you for watching, and stay tuned to the next video.